Let's begin. So to quickly cover things I glossed over last week, the camera manager is now at the scene level. So anytime the user wishes to get or set the camera, it's now all handled through here. And then we have to delete here as well. So if the user makes a request, they will talk to the scene singleton, which will then pass down the request all the way to the scene level through its attorney. And as for this camera manager itself, it's got a default camera created on its creation. The user can set and get the current active camera whenever they want. However, if they change cameras, it is their responsibility to delete it. Camera manager only deletes what the default camera is. It never deletes the current camera, unless the current camera is the default camera, in which case it's the same thing. Lawn manager, it has the time singleton call to get whatever the current time is. So for the time singleton, it processes its time. It also returns the current time as well as the current frame time if requested from it. This is the only class that gets time through the time singleton and its associated freeze time are the only two classes that can get time through the engine. Everything else goes through the time singleton. Other than that, let's begin. So for this week's assignment, what we had to do was we had to do freeze time as well as scene changes. So as you can see here, we got alarms going off. We got the B sphere activated. If I freeze time by pressing F10, we can see that even though I let go of the space key, the B sphere is still up. The looping alarm 6 is no longer looping. If I press F9 to go through one frame, we can see that space is released. If I were to just hold down like the I key, we can see that we slowly move through space. Alarm 6 still not being triggered. Press F10, then alarm 6 starts getting triggered again. If I hit the P key, we swap scenes to a temporary testing scene. We can also see that alarm 6 is no longer triggering. It isn't until we swap scenes again that we get all of our alarms going again. So all the single alarms from the frigate go, and the looping alarm 6 is also going. And once again, if I were to press the P key, we can see that it's still going. The freezing time here also works. So we have that going. If I close the scene before we can swap, we got no leaks. If I also just close the scene here, no leaks. And that's that. So for the actual code this week, for the freeze frame tool, I chose the one with the dynamic refresh rate. And then for computing the game time, it's what we talked about in class with how it has the dead time threshold and it keeps track of however long time was frozen for, so that when we can finally return when we're not frozen, it can compute the difference to say what the active current game time is. For the scene singleton, we now have a null scene class. This is just a little empty class to help with some edge cases. Um, Next scene is null. We'll talk about that a bit more later. We also have the scene change request function class. So the scene change request is used to determine if there has to be a scene change. It has an empty execute request. The no scene change command derived from it has nothing in it. The scene change command that derives from it calls the scene change function in the singleton. So at the top of every frame, whichever request is active, whether it's the no scene change or the scene change, its request is executed. So because nothing is in the no scene change, this is just a no op whenever that's the active scene change request. If we are actually changing scene and this gets called, we end the current scene, set the current scene to be what the user defined the next scene to be, initialize the new current scene, set next scene to null so that we have this ready for the future, and then go back to saying no scene change. So as for actually changing the scene, user can request set next scene through the scene singleton. If there's not already a next scene requested, then it will just set next scene to be the scene and then say it's time for a change. If it were to try and double request in the same frame, so if I run this and press P, we crash because it tried to change the scene twice in a row. Going to the tank game. So for the tank game, I added a tank factory as well as automated inputted tanks. I also have this nice top-down view that I could possibly use for a title screen. So if I press P to swap, we can see here it's mimicking the recall of finding out which tank it is and then removing it from the active pool. So if we go to the tank pool, we can see it's just pushing it into the reserves. And then if I were to go all the way through to here, to the cleanup, it ends up emptying out the tanks by deleting them all until there's nothing left. So if I just run that, now in the other scene where I have the God Cam and also we have a blue tank, this blue tank is what is controlled by the users. So we have a few red tanks as well, followed by a blue tank that the user controls, like I said. If I were to close in this scene, we have once again the recycling here of it going in and putting it into the reserves before it ends up cleaning up all the tanks. So we got 3 red tanks followed by 1 blue tank. So we have no leaks. If I were to swap let me just get rid of these breakpoints, continue. If I would swap the scene a few times and just end here, you see no leaks. Just one more, wait till they fire and then close, no leaks. And that's it.